Hey guys, Mystic being here, joined with Turkish Dev. Today's episode is going to be discussing Hussars as part of our series, which talks about units that are underused by newer and beginner level players in the current online game. Personally, and this is going back a year or two, I really thought of them as just like a trash unit. They were not really good at anything, and okay, of course they're a trash unit, but they weren't really good at anything and they were pretty useless. That was my thoughts, and I used to openly talk about them like that. I was always a naysayer to what they were. Now, I'm reconsidering it.
Of course, beginning Age of Empires, I've used Hussars very badly. I tried to take down castles with 100 Hussars and done stuff like that, but their true potential lies in the ability to raid as well as fight certain units. Countering siege is one of the things that they can do very well.
Those units we'll be discussing later, but
Yes.
really, I used to put them up against champions. I was like, okay, this is an Imperial Age unit, and this is another Imperial Age unit. I didn't really have much understanding about the game, so I was like, okay, why should this one be any different? Okay, this is on a horse. Okay, think about it. It's a horse and a guy not on a horse. I would say the guy on the horse should win. So I didn't really understand their use. So that's the point of this episode, to really show you guys what they should be used for, and
Right.
to spotlight that maybe they should be used more in online games.
Because I really haven't seen too much Hussars unless you're an actual Turk player or somebody with specific bonuses to Hussars specifically, then
Yeah, like the Mongols or the Turks, even the Huns, because they get faster stables. I mean, that affects the whole team. So if you're the Turks, who has a Mongols teammate with extra long line of sight, and then you have the Huns, it means your Hussars are kind of way better than what they would be to anyone else, like Saracens.
Right, because mainly what I do with Hussars, it's not like a 1-2 type unit that you would just have one or two. You need to have a large mass of them and send them to raid. One thing that Mystic Being did one time was he sent a humongous army toward my base, and I was fighting his army. Meanwhile, he sent a large group, maybe 20-30 Hussars back
I
with
think
my base.
we'll be demonstrating in the back. It won't be the same game, but
Right.
just showing what it was.
So that was devastating because I was trying to fight him, and then all I saw was Hussars in the back of my base. And they're really, really great raiding unit for that reason, because I mean they've got 2 pierce armor at base, and then if you got all of the upgrades, then it's pretty resistant against arrows.
And then if you think about it, most players will not have, for newer players especially, the back of your base will generally not be defended. You won't have a defensive castle per se. I find that most newer players generally put their castle in quite weird places that are very susceptible to enemy trebuchets, like really not even defendable. So in the back of your base, you might not have very many castles. Actually, you probably won't have any castles. You'll just think, oh, okay, put my castle in the front,
and that's what I'll be making my unique unit from.
Exactly, the one thought way of unique units. And also, I find that newer players don't make enough TCs to protect their units. So combine all those factors, and the fact that the Hussar is so much faster than essentially every unit. I believe it's one of the fastest. It must
it's one
be.
of the fastest, yeah.
Definitely.
The king is faster,
Oh
pretty
yeah,
sure.
probably. If you combine all those factors together, then you've got this perfect unit that many players don't really use.
I think a lot of players, when they use them, just like how I did back in the days, I'm pretty sure a lot of people did initially, is to actually try to fight other heavy cavalry or good upgraded infantry, whereas they get crushed because that just isn't what they specialize in. But if you use them for the correct situations, like we said, raiding is one of them. Another one I want to kind of get into is archers, because they don't cost any gold, Hussars themselves, so they can be quite effective against archers, because all they cost is food. And also, I think we should be talking a little bit about the production of Hussars, because they cost only food, but they cost quite a lot of food. 80 food is not little.
Yeah. You really have to gear your economy in the early game, especially if you're the Turks and you want to go for a like a surprise hussar attack, then you need a lot of food, and if you're gonna get that much food, you need the wood to sustain the farms. So they can be tough in the beginning of the game, or early part of the game, to sustain production.
Right.
But once you,
Especially when you're making villagers constantly from
Exactly.
different town centers. So when I was playing as the Turks, typically I found that it's better to have a more gold intensive army with some hussars, but then later on you would be making full use of the hussars. That shouldn't be your primary army, obviously, but that should be something in the back of your mind, because I really haven't seen them used at all almost in online games ever.
and most people realize that the Turks, they're really only good when they have gold, but the hussar for them is actually one of the units that really counters that thought. Like, there's such a good filler unit for your army that you don't really necessarily need. Okay, pikemen. Okay, pikemen and skirmishers are pretty important. If you're the Berbers, help your Turkish teammate out by giving you some genitours. But
In the expansions, at least.
expansions, yeah. But really, they have no other options. So, for the Turks especially, you need hussars.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to be talking too much about the Turks specifically, like we did last time with Britons.
Yeah.
But yeah, like in general, they are beaten a lot because they don't have other trash to counter, and I completely do agree with that argument, because no elite skirmishers and no halberdiers, all those are bad. They don't even get, what's the other one?
Pikemen.
Yeah, exactly. They don't even get pikemen.
They only get spearmen.
So
Which, yeah, that's useful.
so that's why you don't pick them on 1v1
Yeah.
fights. But I'm not gonna get into that. That's just a whole different other thing.
Yeah. So our next discussion part is against siege. Now, as you know, siege costs a lot of gold and wood, and your hussars cost no gold and no wood. Of course, you need the stables, but you need siege workshops anyway. But and they counter siege very well. They're really fast, so they can skip siege onager shots, and they also have enough health to take on siege onager shots. So you're not going to be scared of losing them from one siege onager shot. You may get one, you may lose a few, but once you get up to the siege, then they have no counter.
Of course.
Since your hussars are so much faster, if you have your strong unit, like your champions, in the front line to counter enemy units, but you manage to get 10 hussars by, you attack the enemy siege, you do a lot of damage. Now he ends up losing more gold in that fight and more resources, per se, than you would, just by using a couple of hussars. Also, though I don't think many players would see this, against monks, if it's an AI game, have insane conversions. But in online games, if your enemy is really good player with the monk, then having a few hussars in your army will really help in taking them down.
Because typically, monks wouldn't focus down. At least I wouldn't think they focus down hussars. They're not really. And if you lose a hussar by getting converted,
and hussars, they have extreme conversion
resistance. Do they?
Yeah, resistance. They're very good resistance against monks.
Okay, so in that case, if monks are used to, which probably must be another video on its whole own, because they are also one of the more underused units, even though I myself don't use them at all, because micromanagement, I mean, in top level play, like when we win arena matches and whatnot, they use monks a lot, because micromanagement is key with monks too. Right. One thing I wanted to also point out, one specific situation would be that if before the fight actually occurs, if you're able to somehow sneak hussars into their base, you can take out their siege a lot easier, because if there's an army, typically if someone's engaging with siege, they usually have something like halberdiers that's protecting their siege in the front, and that would take care of quite a few of your hussars, especially in choke points, if they're right in front of their siege and your hussars can't go past them. But otherwise, if you're going, and obviously you're not going to send like one suicide mission hussar to go take out all the guys' siege.
Exactly.
But
it could work if he's not paying attention, and
he has nothing defending the siege. But typically you want to have a good mass, maybe say 15 of them for it to be any effective. And
definitely they can do quite a bit of damage at the back of an enemy base, taking down houses.
Taking down trade is another big thing.
Capping you. Exactly, trade. If you think about it, trade costs 100 wood, 50 gold. You take down one trade unit of the enemy, and you're already denying him the gold that he would have gotten from that trade unit, and he's losing the 100 wood and 50 gold for your 80 food.
Right, and which you don't even lose.
Yeah,
I mean, eventually,
in the end of the game, really, since newer player games generally go on till post-Imperial Age, where most of the techs are researched, and it's like, what? Maybe a 2 hour?
yeah,
1 hour and a half.
1 hour and a half.
Sometimes.
typically.
You're gonna want to get rid of that food, and really, a really good choice that you can make is investing into Hussars. Their upgrades only have to do 2 upgrades, unless you're to the Turks, who don't have to. Only 2 upgrades, from Scout to Light Cavalry, and then from Light Cavalry to Hussar. And they're not a big investment, necessarily. And once you're in Imperial Age, and you want to dwindle their supply of gold and other things, then getting a few Hussars into the back of the base can really demoralize the enemy. Also, it will divide their attention. They're like, okay, my base is being attacked, how can I defend this? But also focus on the front. Maybe they're going to send some units back into their base to defend, but on the front, you go on an offense. So you can really distract and bring the enemy down in numbers in the front. Another unit that compares to the Hussar, and though I've only played a few times as them, the Magyars, the Hussar, which is also a unit like the Hussar, light cavalry, very fast, might be faster than the Hussar, I'm not sure, and they cost 10 gold, but once you get the research...
Is it 10 gold, 80 food?
Yeah, 10 gold, 80 food, I believe, but once you get the research mercenaries, I believe, then they take away that gold cost, and now you've got a better unit, a better Hussar, for your...
Than the original Hussar.
But really, it's like a unique unit that I'm not sure if it's the best unique unit that you can get. I think it's an underpowered unique unit.
Wait,
compared
is
to
it produced
other
directly
units.
from the castle, or is it?
Yeah, it's
Does
produced.
it have the technology that gets you from the stables?
No, it gets upgrades from the blacksmith and stables, but it's produced from the castle.
From the castle. So it kind of defeats the purpose of making Hussars in the first place.
I think they're really hit and miss unique unit. Like compared to the Cataphracts, which gets insane damage against infantry and other things. This unit, if you look at it, not that.
Well, it's missing the gold cost, but I mean, the whole point of making Hussars late game is just so that you can throw down 5, 6, maybe even 10 if you're going insane Hussar production with like 10,000 food in the bank, then insane Hussar production to just kill that food, make an army, disrupt the other guy's economy by sneaking some in there. So I would think that's the main use of Hussars. Whereas opposed to if you're making them from the castle, then how many can you even make for that to be?
Yeah, it would take longer, and
it would take a lot longer.
Also, I think they're a unit that could really break a stalemate, where you can send them into the enemy base, raid, distract them, as I said, and then focus on your push.
One other thing is that you shouldn't try to mass Hussars if you're low on food. Invest into Hussars if you're low on food. If you have a balance between food and gold, for example, you should not focus on building Hussars before everything else. I mean, if you're struggling with food, then go ahead and make something that's either less food intensive or use that food for something productive. Like if you have a lot of gold and some food, don't try to make Hussars. Make something like paladins or something that's stronger. We're not making the argument at all that Hussars should be made at all games or anything like that. They're just
and as
somewhat situational.
As Turkish devs talked about, against archers, definitely a good choice if you're going to be flanking them, because they're much faster, and if you can surprise them by having the bulk of your army, maybe some skirmishers up front, and then you get your Hussars onto the side, it can really be devastating, because archers, unless they're focus firing, it'll take quite a few hits to take down a Hussar army, even a couple of them. It can really make a dent into the...
With Bloodlines, Hussars have 95 HP, which is not little, and they have 2 Pierce Armor starting.
11 attack
11 attack
11 attack.
with all the blacksmith upgrades.
Yeah, there might be some civilizations that get extra bonuses, but that was just, I believe, it was the Turks. So to sum it up, some situations, and it is a situational unit. Don't go putting it up against champions, or definitely no halberdiers or whatever. But if you're going to be using them, use them up against siege, because enemy siege is much more expensive than your hussars. Use them to raid both your enemy villagers and the gold line, because the gold line of the enemy, the caravans or the trade carts, that will really affect his use of ability to make actual quality units. Also use them against archers when you have them massed up and you can flank the enemy. Also, if you want to create distractions and you want to raid, for example on arena, if the enemy base is wide open, you can slip some hussars into the back of the enemy base, and since it's a bit more compact in arena, you can probably get away with quite a few kills. So that's going to be, unless you have anything to add.
Anything to add? I just wanted to also add something, but I forgot I was gonna say.
Okay, so be it. Well, thank you guys for watching. It's been Mystic Being and Turkish Dev here.
Right.
Subscribe to my channel, Mystic Being, and also this channel for more content. Thank you all for watching.
I was about to say, I just remembered. I apologize for cutting you off. Late game, also, you should, like, times that you should use them. If you have a humongous amount of food and you have somewhat of an okay army, just add hussars to the combination.
They're a good filler unit.
They're good, exactly. They're a good filler unit. Not one to be massed and fought against. Not one to be massed and kind of tried to fight like heavy armies, heavy cavalry, heavy infantry, whatever. But just, you know, as a filler unit, if you have a lot of food in the bank, then definitely do invest into that.
So I do hope that you guys reconsidered that unit, the hussar, and will use it in more games, because really we're trying to bring attention to less and underused units. Thank you guys for watching.
Because they also exist in the game. They have a place in the game.
See y'all next time.
Bye.